Hi.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, nice to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. It's been a while actually. Um, yeah, I saw you were live on YouTube, so I thought I'd just call.
Nice. Did you have any questions?
Yeah, I actually did. It's well, one of them, or I should say, my question is the because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos regarding non-duality, and and this thing of how there's no separation. It's just, it's really, how can I say, it's ringing a bell, so to speak. And um, it feels like as if the, at a certain level, it's understood that there's no separation, but it feels almost as if it's outside the body, as if everything was one outside, and over here, there's still a separate being, you know?
Where is the separate being?
Um, Here, I mean,
Inside your
the
body.
sense, yeah.
And what is this separate being?
Um, it's it's more like this, the point of view when, well, let's say things happen, interactions with people or stuff like that, where the energy just gets really caught up with those things, and I lose track of I don't know.
Yeah, it's because you, in your brain or in your being, you've associated waking up as a personal thing and it isn't personal. So, do you think that putting your attention into the I am or into consciousness makes you closer to non separation?
Um, hmm, I don't know.
Because the question is when you said that you lose track of things and you get lost in life, who is it that gets lost in life? There is still consciousness of that. You're not asleep when that's happening, are you? The person might be asleep, as in the person's like acting out unconsciously its habits or dynamics, but there's still consciousness of it happening. It's because there's still a consciousness, there's still awakeness happening.
Yeah. Mm.
So when you're really lost in a drama and your person's freaking out about something, you're not, there's not non-existence happening. There is consciousness, there is existence happening. There is something that's conscious of all of that. It's just that you might think of consciousness as in some way a personal thing, that you have to be conscious of what's going on a human level. Like you have to be conscious of all these dynamics playing out or being lost in the dream. Whereas that's a psychological game that you're playing with yourself. There's something beyond that that's conscious of all of that happening, whether the person is conscious or not. There is an impersonal consciousness, there is an awakeness. And waking up is the movement back to that.
Yeah, as you say these words, it's it's funny. There's this sort of huge resistance to it.
What's the resistance? So this is now going into the human level. This hasn't got
Yeah.
anything to do with that awakeness. Like there's awakeness happening, there's consciousness happening, there's perception happening. Whatever the person feels, there is a knowing that it's all happening that's impersonal. And then the personal says this. So the thoughts come up and say there's a resistance, and the feelings are there's a resistance, and then the personal awareness moves to the resistance. So where do you feel that resistance? Do you feel it as a discomfort in your body? Is it a pain in your body? Is it an emotional reaction, or is it a thought reaction?
It's like a fear in a way,
And
if I could describe it.
And how do you know that fear? Like where is it? Like what's happening for you in order for you to know there's an experience of fear?
It arises and it feels similar to fear.
And where does it arise? Whereabouts in the experience? Is it all over the experience? Is everything fearful? Or is it in a particular place?
It's almost coming from the heart in a way.
Yeah. What does it fear? So if you investigate it, what do you fear I'm doing to you as I speak to you?
There's just, I guess, fear of letting go or of the unknown. Yeah, just unknown, I guess.
What's so bad to you? What's so bad for you in the unknown?
It feels like death in a way.
And what's wrong with death to you?
I guess it doesn't sound that bad.
What don't you like about death?
I mean, it's about relief in a sense of struggle in one way.
The death is a relief from struggle. And why is it a relief from struggle if you die? What's your projection onto death?
Like there's intense emotions just rising right now. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's just agitation, fear.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that you want in that? So you've got the agitation, you've got the fear. You want safety, or you want reassurance, or love, or gentleness?
Well, this person wants, I guess, liberation.
And what's
Just
liberation to you?
it's clarity, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing things as they are instead of filtering away, or having this attached to this position.
Mm-hmm. And what happens to you when you see things chaotically and you're attached to that position?
Well, it feels like there's needless suffering.
Mm-hmm. So just
Feels
recognize,
like it,
yeah, carry
yeah.
on.
I was just gonna say, it feels like it's, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way in a sense.
Mm-hmm. So just recognize all of that's going in the human level. So all these feelings are appearing on the human level. And the human wants to become enlightened in order to sort it out. It wants to come free of that. It doesn't want to experience chaos or death or anything negative. And it has an image of enlightenment that will free it. So it does enlightened practices, whatever it thinks, or it listens to non-duality, because it wants to be free of all the things that cause it suffering. Just recognize that this is great that you're recognizing it all. And notice that in your experience there's these words coming up, and there's something that can think about it and comprehend it and remember what I'm saying and follow what I'm saying. And there's all these emotions going on, and that's beautiful that you're so eloquent at expressing yourself. And then notice that there is something that's experiencing that. There's something that's experiencing the person that doesn't like chaos and wants freedom. There's something that's experiencing the person that thinks about the image of freedom. There's something that's experiencing the sound of my voice, the computer, the room, the microphone, all of this, everything. It's conscious of it. It knows it instantaneously. So that's not anything to do with the person. The person is also being experienced. Your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas about what's happening, your recognition, your understanding, all of it's being experienced. And that experiencer cannot be found. The person can't turn around and look at the experiencer because the person is being experienced. So there's two levels that we deal with, or I deal with. There's the absolute, there's freedom that knows everything. And that freedom cannot suffer because it's not identified with a thing. And it's here right now in your experience. But what's happening in you is you're focused on the human experience, which seems solid and fixed. And you believe that you can sort the human out and the human can become enlightened, and that you're one day going to arrive there on the human level. And therefore you keep seeking in your emotions to have emotional peace or emotional stability. You seek to not feel uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, what was it that you, chaos, or to avoid death. And that all of that is an endless cycle. The freedom of enlightenment is recognizing that there's something that's experiencing that person, that's going through that dance. It's an energetic movement from being limited to this expansive freedom, which is everything and nothing, which is presence. And we can work on the human, and the human can work on itself, because the human can't get to freedom, because the human is something that comes and goes. So there is no solid human that can eventually arrive at freedom, because freedom is your nature. It's what the human appears and disappears in. But what can happen on the human level is the human can become more aware of itself, more understanding of itself, and it can become a more balanced, happy human. When it's been identified, it seeks for the freedom of presence, it seeks for the freedom of the no thing and the everything of the absolute in itself, and it becomes endlessly frustrated because it can't find freedom in its actions, behaviors, ideas, beliefs, emotions, feelings, lovers, people, things. So it becomes frustrated. So what you can do is you can recondition that person to an extent to become more relaxed with what's happening. But that's not going to bring you to freedom, because the person doesn't become free, because the person doesn't exist as a separate entity. The person is an experience. Your whole life has been an experience on the human level. Your memories, your ideas have always been experienced by something that's still and present now, that's not a thing and all things. And you, who you truly are, have never left this moment. You've never come and gone. You've never been here and not been here. You've never been conscious and unconscious. It's always been present. It's always been here. And it will go on like that endlessly. In fact, endless appears in it. Endless isn't a word for who you truly are. It's something that comes and goes.
So really, it's there is no separation.
No.
Is what I'm getting.
Yeah, from the perspective of the absolute. From the perspective of the human character, there appears to be separation, and there appears to be time and cause and effect. But from who you truly are, there is no separation. I am you, the wall is you, the computer, the camera, the microphone, the colours. That's who you are. There is no space, time and distance in who you truly are.
In a way, it feels like it's almost we're in these avatars. I don't know if you saw the movie.
Yeah.
Avatar.
Yeah.
Or virtual reality or something like that.
Yeah, you could use that as a metaphor. It's a good metaphor. But then the question is who is in that virtual reality? Until it's really seen, the person always interprets it in some way as a personal thing.
Mm. I mean, it's I feel the more I listen to this message, the less there's this urgency to achieve things in a way. Is that, I mean, I'm sort of worried about that.
Yeah, because that can be two things. That can be the human becoming depressed, or it can be a movement back to what you are, where everything is enjoyed for what it is. It's not about future. It's not about getting to. It's about the joy of what's happening. So it's like the miracle of what's happening. So the feeling of your bum on the seat, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the breeze on your skin, the sound of my voice, it's the feeling of what's actually happening, and that's where the joy lies. For the seeker, for the illusory part, your happiness is dependent on working towards something and achieving it in the future and becoming happy in the future, and that's the dream of the separation. Is that you will achieve happiness, you will achieve something in the future. And you're never really present to what is, you're always working to arrive somewhere. So it can be two things. If it's the person that is becoming dissatisfied and less interested in life, then it will begin to become depressed. If it's beginning to wake up and see the beauty of what you are, then it will begin to feel vital and alive and inspired to create. But maybe it doesn't create much. Maybe all it creates is cooking a meal 3 times a day or something. When we don't know what it will look like. I don't mean that you're going to suddenly start producing like like Beethoven or Mozart did. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just like life is totally creative in itself in this very moment. So we don't know what that'll look like, but it's it's not a depressed energy, it's a vital intimacy with what's happening. And it doesn't belong to someone. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that has been felt as well, because those periods where there was Great Depression and there was that not wanting to do anything, but at the same time, I feel recently it's more the other, where it's just there was the fear that, okay, what if now? What if this is
It.
sufficient, you know? What
Yeah.
if it's, because this seeking for happiness and goals and things was just so huge.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a way, those things didn't happen. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a good thing. But, you know, there were moments where, I guess, even just very brief moments where it was just, you know, this isn't that bad. If this is all there is, you know, if this is, as in this moment, it's yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I don't have any more questions.
Thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciated how much you, on the human level, you are very respectful in conversation, and I appreciate that. You give space to let me speak and space for silence in order to let something digest. And when you speak with a lot of grace and calmness, like you're not pushing stuff onto me or trying to grab anything from me. And I really appreciate that interaction and the respect that you held for this conversation. And so thank you.
Well, it was my absolute pleasure, Lisa. And I guess since, you know, you accepted my call, it means that I'm guaranteed to be enlightened, right? It's
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But no, it was a real pleasure talking to you after all this time. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So if you're listening, I'm just about to sing the praise of Abdul. What I really appreciated in this conversation was that he gave me respect, and not me as respect as a teacher or any authority, but me as a respect as a human being in the conversation. He gave me space and time. I hope I gave him space and time too, but it's hard to see the actions of this character. They're too close, but I really appreciated that conversation. I felt he was really respectful in boundaries.